was only 15 when it happened, and it still traumatizes me. It was the day after Christmas. I remember because we still had leftovers from the night before. Rice cakes, grilled fish, fried bananas, the good stuff my mom only made during holidays. That morning the sky was clear. The kind of morning that tricks you. The kind that whispers nothing bad can happen today. My cousin Arwan and I were barefoot, racing across the sand behind my uncle's noodle stall. The tide had gone out further than usual, so we dared each other to walk across the wet sand, chasing crabs and trying to spot sea cucumbers. We were just kids. We didn't know the sea was playing tricks. Seagulls circled above, calling out in that annoying way they do when there's food nearby. We had just finished breakfast, fried rice wrapped in banana leaves, and that's when the ground started to move. It wasn't violent at first, just a low rumble, like a truck passing by. But there were no trucks around, just the ocean. The earth trembled beneath us, stronger now, as if it were alive and waking up after a long, angry sleep. People came out of their homes. Some were shouting. Others were laughing nervously. My mother yelled for me to come back to the house, but Arwan and I stayed on the beach, watching the sand shift under our feet. And then it stopped, with a heavy silence. Not the normal kind of quiet. I mean real silence. Like someone hit mute on the whole planet. That should have been the warning. But we didn't know. No one knew. That was the moment I should have known something was wrong. The dogs had gone quiet. The birds vanished. Even the waves seemed to hold their breath. The ocean, usually loud and restless, looked confused. And then it started pulling away. I felt something strange with the ocean. We watched as the sea retreated, fast, faster than I'd ever seen before. Boats tilted on their sides. The wet sand stretched out for what seemed like miles. Exposed coral glinted in the sunlight, and fish flopped helplessly in tide pools that should have been underwater. People were cheering, running toward the disappearing sea, grabbing fish with their hands like children playing a game. But I didn't move. There was something about it. Something unnatural. Like the ocean was inhaling. Like it was getting ready to scream. And then I heard it. A sound so deep and distant it rattled my bones. A low, thunderous roar rising from beyond the horizon. I turned toward it, and that's when I saw the wall. A black, rising wall of water. Not a wave, not something you could surf. This was taller than the palm trees, taller than the buildings. It was just rising, thick and fast and endless. I couldn't even scream. I just grabbed Arwan's wrist and ran. We jumped across the sand, dodging people who hadn't even noticed the monster coming. Some were still laughing, still fishing. And then the roar grew louder. And the wind hit us, hot, humid, full of salt, dust. The sky darkened. My mother's voice called out again, but I couldn't hear the words anymore. And then everything happened at once. The water hit. I didn't feel it so much as I was taken, ripped from the ground like a toy. One moment I was running, and the next, I was weightless, underwater, spinning. There was no up, no down, just water, mud, everywhere. Something crashed into my back. I couldn't even breathe. My mouth filled with salt and sand. My legs kicked out, hitting nothing. My eyes burned. I thought, this is how I die. And then air. I surfaced, coughing, choking, gasping for breath. The current dragged me through what used to be our village. I saw roofs, bodies, furniture, and somehow I managed to grab onto something. A door? A piece of someone's house? I held on with everything I had, and yet the water didn't stop. It kept coming. Trees ripped from the ground floated past like matchsticks. A refrigerator spun by. A motorcycle. A child's backpack. I called out for Arwan. Nothing. I screamed for my mother. Nothing. Hours passed, or minutes. I honestly don't know. I drifted, shivering in brown water thick with oil and blood. I climbed onto a piece of rooftop and waited. Just waited. That night I heard voices in the dark. Cries. Prayers. Some were real. Some I imagined. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't move. I just stared at the black sea, daring it to come back. And when the sun rose, the world was gone. Our village was completely destroyed. Every building is either shattered or missing. Our mosque reduced to rubble. Chickens, dogs, and bodies lay tangled in wires and wood. The air smelled like gasoline, death, and rotting things. I wandered for hours, barefoot and bleeding. No food, no water. Just trying to find someone I knew. And that's when I found Arwan's shoe. Later, I found his body, bloated, twisted in a tree. But still, I never found my parents. They were simply gone. Rescue teams came 3 days later. They wrapped me in a blanket and gave me crackers and warm water. I didn't speak. Not at first, I just couldn't. Then they took me to a shelter. I stayed there for months, and even now, 2 decades later, I remember everything. I remember the way the earth whispered before it roared. I remember the fish gasping on the sand. I remember the quiet, that cursed, deadly quiet before the sea screamed. So now, when the beach gets too calm, when the tide pulls back too far, or when the wind goes still, I just freeze. Because I know what's coming. I've heard the ocean scream before, and I know it will scream again. If you heard something whispering between the waves, you weren't imagining it. Some memories stay buried under the water. Others rise with the tide, looking for someone new to hold on to. So before the next wave finds you, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Because once these stories reach you, they never really let go. They say I died that day, and maybe they're right. It was March 11th. I remember because the math test had just ended, and I was stuffing my pencil case back into my bag. Our classroom was on the second floor, facing the hills. It was so quiet, peaceful even. Then the walls began to tremble. Not just a shiver, a deep quake. The kind that makes your stomach drop. The kind where the floor rolls under your feet like you're on a ship. And that's when the lights went out. Books started to fly off the shelves. Glasses started to shatter. And then everyone was screaming. I couldn't understand what was happening. I remember grabbing the desk, holding on like it would save me. My friend Aiko was crying, her voice barely audible over the roar. The quake lasted forever. When it stopped, we all just sat there, breathing, waiting, hoping that was it. But it wasn't. Within minutes, the teachers herded us outside. The air smelled of dust and panic. A few of us had phones, and one boy was crying after seeing the emergency warning. Tsunami imminent. Get to higher ground. I looked toward the sea. Nothing. Just that calm, flat ocean that had always been there. But still, something felt wrong. The birds had vanished. The wind was still. Too still. Then the sirens wailed. And that's when the screaming started. We ran. Not in a line like we always do. Just pure chaos. Kids slipping. Teachers yelling. I dropped my bag somewhere and didn't look back. The evacuation point was uphill, near the forest line. I ran until my lungs felt like they were being stabbed. Then I heard it. That sound. Coming. I'll never forget it, like an endless growl mixed with crashing metal and breaking earth. I turned my head and saw it coming. The water. Not like a wave, but more like a moving wall of hell. Black water, filled with dirt and mud. It moved like it had a purpose, like it was hunting. I was halfway up the hill when it hit. Screams. So many screams. The water swept in fast. It tore houses apart like paper. Cars floated. Telephone poles snapped. Someone grabbed my hand. I think it was Aiko, but the current pulled her away like she weighed nothing. Then something smashed into my side. I blacked out. I don't know how long I was under. I just remember the cold. Darkness, pressure. My chest felt like it was going to explode. Then I surfaced, gasping, coughing up seawater, eyes burning. Everything was gone. Where my school had been, it's just water. I clung to what I think was a part of a fence and drifted. And the smell, it's hard to describe, like the world had been turned inside out. I saw people, some calling for help, some not moving at all. Then I saw one man drifting by in a bathtub, sobbing. I don't know how long I floated before someone pulled me onto the roof of a house that had somehow stayed above water. There were 5 of us up there. One man had a broken leg. A woman kept whispering the names of her children, over and over. But I didn't speak. I just stared at the horizon, waiting for the sea to come back. Rescuers found us the next day. I was then taken to a shelter where my name was put on a list of the living. I heard my aunt cry when she saw it, because by then, everyone had assumed I was dead. The town said over 3,000 people didn't make it. Aiko's name was on that list. But here's the part I never talk about. The part that still keeps me up. Weeks after the tsunami, I started seeing her. Aiko. At first, I thought it was my mind playing tricks. I'd look out the shelter window and see her near the trees, standing, watching. But she never moved, never blinked. Sometimes I'd hear her voice calling my name from behind collapsed buildings. Once, I found a soaking wet hair clip. The same one she used to wear resting beside my sleeping mat. No one else saw it. People started whispering that I was different since the tsunami. And maybe they were right. I didn't feel alive. Not really. I was cold all the time. The food tasted like ash. My hands never stopped shaking. Every time I saw water, even in a glass, I felt like I was drowning all over again. Then one night, I dreamed of the wave. But this time, it was speaking. In a voice made of rushing water and broken glass. You weren't supposed to survive. You came back wrong. I woke up screaming. My bunkmates looked at me like I was a ghost. And yeah, they weren't entirely wrong. Now, years later, I still live inland, far from the sea. I don't tell people what I saw, or what I still see. Sometimes I catch glimpses of Aiko in reflections, in puddles, in windows, just watching. She never speaks, but I know what she's thinking. I took her place, and the ocean, it never forgets. I never watch that video anymore. I keep it stored on a hard drive I don't dare open. But I know every frame by heart, every scream, every splash, every moment I wish I could erase. It was December 26th, 2004, the second day of our holiday in Phuket. My parents had saved up all year for that trip, a family getaway to escape cold London winter. Sunday, sand, smiles, and me, I was 17. I brought my camcorder everywhere back then. It was the kind you held like a gun, clunky but reliable. I wanted to be a filmmaker. I recorded everything. I wish I hadn't. That morning, I was filming my little sister, Kayla, chasing crabs along the shore. She was 9, wearing a bright yellow swimsuit with sunflowers on it. Every time she bent to pick something up, she giggled like it was the funniest thing in the world. My mom was on a towel behind her, sipping from a coconut, and Dad was reading the newspaper under a big red umbrella. The camera panned across all of it, paradise in motion. Then the sea disappeared. Literally. It just vanished. Like someone pulled a plug. The shoreline retreated hundreds of feet in minutes. Boats tipped over on their bellies. Fish flopped on dry sand. I kept filming. I thought it was weird, cool even, like nature was putting on a show. In the footage, you can hear me say, "What the hell?" And then my sister calls out, "The sea's gone." She laughs. God, she laughed. People gathered at the edge of the new shoreline. Locals, tourists, kids with buckets, couples holding hands. Someone pointed way out at the horizon. I turned my camera. There it was. It looked like a line at first, then a bump, then a wall, a black wall of water, coming fast. You can hear my dad yell, "Grab your sister! Run!" Then the camera jerks. I didn't turn it off. I dropped it. But it kept recording. You hear us screaming. You hear footsteps slapping wet sand. You hear the roar of the ocean growing louder, like a train. No, like a monster. I grabbed Kayla. She went crying. My dad shoved my mom ahead of him. He tried to carry both beach bags. I remember how stupid that was. Beach bags like we'd need sunscreen or a towel in hell. Then the water hit. It didn't crawl up the beach. It punched us like a wrecking ball made of glass. We were swallowed. I lost grip of Kayla. I remember her hand slipping from mine, her voice screaming underwater, muffled and shrill. I remember slamming into something hard, maybe a palm tree, and tumbling through mud. A chair, a suitcase, someone's body. The world twisted. I came up gasping, choking, arms flailing. Everything was brown, not water, just mud. Foamy, filthy sludge with pieces of buildings in it. Screams came from everywhere and nowhere. I grabbed onto a door frame and held on. I don't know how long I floated. An hour? 10? And then I ended up in a tree. Literally wedged between branches like a broken bird. My shirt was torn. My foot was bleeding. The air stank of gasoline and sewage and something else I didn't want to name. All I could think about was Kayla. I climbed down and walked. The world I knew was gone. Resorts were flattened, pools filled with corpses. Palm trees bent backward. I saw a stuffed toy wedged in a gutter. A dog howling next to a lifeless couple. Then I saw her swimsuit. Sunflowers. Half buried in the mud. Just the swimsuit. I fell to my knees. Hours later, someone found me. A rescue worker, I think. I don't remember what language he spoke. He gave me water and wrapped me in a blanket I didn't want. And days passed. They found my mother's body in the wreckage of a hotel lobby, still holding her handbag. Dad washed up a mile down the coast, face down in a rice field. Kayla was never found. But I don't need a body. I know she's gone. I know because I saw the last smile she ever gave me. On tape. I recovered the camera days later. It was half buried in mud, but still worked. The footage is horrifying, haunting, beautiful. My family alive, laughing, seconds before hell opened. Sometimes I wonder if that camera cursed us. Like it captured too much, like the sea wanted it back. I don't film anymore. I don't vacation near water. I don't laugh the same. I've told this story only once before, and I watched the listener's face change from polite interest to sheer horror. I get it. It's too much. Too real. But someone needs to know. Because the ocean doesn't just take things. Sometimes it makes you watch first.